my name is Jasmine. I'm a holistic counselor and a writer and a Notion enthusiast. I love Notion so much for managing every aspect of my life, but especially for goal setting and time management and really keeping myself in a place where I understand what my priorities are so that I don't wind up feeling super scattered. I have run a business and a mental health nonprofit for the last 5 years, both of them simultaneously. And especially in my business, was the sole person trying to figure out what to focus on, what to prioritize, what to do, how to get through my to do list, and how all of my goals fit together. If you already have this Notion template, or if you don't, you might want to stick around and just see the process that I use to turn a vision into a reality, to kind of hone in on my many passions and figure out what's really important. I did this for you so that you don't have to do any of the dirty work. If you don't know Notion, then you wouldn't know. But Notion is actually just kind of a blank template. Think of it like a bullet journal, but online, that is just a blank screen. Everything else I filled in for you. So let's get started. This is what I call the life dashboard for goal setting, vision casting, and project managing. So everything that you need is up here at the top in terms of your business, your personal stuff, your research. But I'm going to start here because I think that the most important part of this template is really using it for your needs. And you're not going to necessarily know exactly what you need or how to use this template for your needs unless you give yourself the space and the time to really sit and think through what are your priorities for this year? Like, how does this fit into your life? What is your why in the world? Yes, I know we're starting big, we're starting really big, but in my opinion, that's the best place to start. So, what I want you to do, if you already bought this template and you're walking yourself through it right now, I want you to light a candle, light some incense, get out your, colored pens if you like actually, writing something down first, and just kind of easing yourself in, putting on some nice music to really just get into a place of curiosity. Forget how you may have been doing things for the last 10, 15 years and just sit with this, come from a place of curiosity. Don't feel pressured to do all of this at once, okay? So here's where I would recommend you start. Whether, we're halfway through the year or whether we're at the top of a new year, there is never a bad time to just kind of come back together and reprioritize. So, what I always like to do, and where I think it's best to start, is right here, coming up with your word for the year. So, I don't know, I just gave an example here. Maybe your word is bliss. I like to just kind of sit with, I write down, maybe 10, 20 words that come to mind, like what is the theme? You don't have to know what this year is going to be for you, or even necessarily what it has been, but just think about what's really important to you right now. What do you want to cultivate? What is it that you are prioritizing? Is it slowness? Is it friendship, family? What is your word? From there, get into your core desired feelings. So, core desired feelings is something by Danielle Laporte. She at least kind of coined this term. And the way that you think out your core desired feelings is just by asking yourself the simple question. Again, you can write this down in here, your draft, or on a piece of paper. How do you want to feel on an everyday basis? I mean, yes, we can say happy, content, but what does that actually mean? What does that look like for you? Again, some examples here: spaciousness. Spaciousness. If I think of my core desired feeling, it is I want to feel a sense of spaciousness, creativity, and bliss. Some other ones that I've used are, freedom, adventure, if that's where you're at in your life. Other ones might be grounded, whatever it might be for you. Go through your core desired feelings, work that out, put them here. I recommend not having more than 4. 3 is ideal. Then go through your values. I've linked a quiz here. And again, if you're like, okay, all right, Jasmine, why? Because How are you going to know what your like big picture goals are if you're not sure how you actually want to feel this year or on an everyday basis, or what really matters to you? That's the foundation of your dreams, because if your dreams and goals don't match that, then there's no point in hitting them, right? What we want in life is always rooted in how we want to feel. So let's first get clear on how we want to feel, what we value, what matters, and then we can get to the goals. So I linked a quiz here that's super fast and simple that can just kind of take you through, what are your top values? What do you actually value in life? These are the ones that came up for me: interconnectedness, growth, integrity, curiosity, contribution. Those are my values. Knowing that is crucial. Knowing that is crucial because when I'm trying to weigh, do I go with this goal for this year or that goal for this year? Like, what do I really want to work on or step into? I go back to my values. What actually matters to me? Well, this goal, goal A, actually fits way more with these values than goal B. So that's what I'm going to go with. Then I want you to fill out some of your vision board. So this isn't mine, but I just kind of wanted to give you a couple of examples here of pretty pictures. I know if you're not a super visual person, well, then this template might not be for you, because this template is for someone like me who is highly aesthetic, loves visuals. Um, so save some images here just in case, like if you're at a day where you're sitting at your desk and you're like, I don't know. I feel like I don't know what to do. I don't know what I want. These images can really just help you come back to, snap back to, oh yeah, this is the life that I'm building. Oh yeah, okay. I get a sense of like, well, what we're doing here, why we're doing this. Vision boards can be so cool. Affirmations. You might not be an affirmation person. That's okay. Just list a couple ones here again that you can always go back to. If that friend that you texted and said like, "Hey, I need to pick me up. Can you send me like an affirmation?" and they're not getting back to you, just like you have them here. Then some inspiration, just a couple of gifts here, that's just kind of like, yeah, look, Zoe Deschanel's cheering me on. Great. Love it. Look at her down at the bottom. She's just like, yeah, you got this. You got this. Love it. It's all right here. And lastly, your compliments folder. This is a new one for me, and it's totally a game changer. People see things in you that you don't see in yourself. I guarantee it. Positive things in you that you don't see in yourself. Write them down. This is the space for it. This is a whole database of compliments where if you need to remember who you are, if you need to get a just boost of confidence, this is here. This is where it's at. These aren't the ones that people have said about me, but I made them generic. But yours aren't going to be generic. They're going to be, specifically about you. God, I love the way that your mind works because you can just see, all the possibilities that are out there. I love that about you. Write that down. Write that down when someone says that about you. Okay, so that's first. This is where I recommend you start, because it can really, even though it might seem a little bit inconsequential, it can be so grounding. Start there. Then, if you want to, you don't have to do this piece. This piece is not crucial, but I loved this exercise that I saw. And this is actually something that had gone around Notion for a little while. This is based on Helen Tremethick, and it's an amazing practice. It doesn't have to take too long. This is just kind of, again, if you need something to come back to help you remember what you're doing in the world and to help you answer some of those big, big, big picture questions, start here. Again, this might not be for everyone, but I put this here because I do really value it. It has you, go through some questions of like, why are you here? What do you believe in? What do you really stand for? Again, just getting, some more clarity on your desires, what motivates you, what your focus is, what's essential to you. In your leadership style, how do you want people to feel? Why is your work important in the world? What do you think the world needs more of? How does your work fill in these gaps? What's your theory of change? Theory of change is like, how do you think transformation happens in your field, in your life, in whatever it might be? What's your strategy for why you're doing what you're doing, and your top skills? So, this is the one that I filled out for myself. You can use it as some inspiration, as an example, but it's a great place to start where, again, you do not have to have all of those answers, but just the process of trying to think through some of them. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. So life changing. Again, you can use this however you need, customize it to what you want. Now, now we get into the juicy stuff. All right. Let us start with our 10-year goals. Now, you might be the kind of person that feels like you need to start with the shorter term. You need to start with the 1 year. That's okay. You do that. You do that if you need to do that. But most of the people that I think are really, really going to benefit from this template are the folks like me who can zoom out super far. You might have the loftiest dreams and goals. You may or may not even know what they are or have taken the time to write them out, but you have a much harder time zooming in. So that's why I like to start with the 10-year. The way that you start with the 10-year, I guarantee this practice is going to be amazing for you. And I have the link to this practice in this template and in the description of this video also. I have you can print it out. I have a whole page on it. But I do recommend not putting it into Notion until you have actually written out this exercise first. This is a place where I would recommend writing first, then putting it into Notion, because writing it can make your brain work in a different way. So if you do not have your 10-year goals kind of ready to go, ready to plug in here, don't worry about it. Not a lot of people do. I didn't, especially before, 3 years ago when I really started getting into this. So here's what you do. Again, make sure you have that incense, that candle, those colored pens, whatever else you need to feel comfortable. And I want you to take 4 notebook pages and your phone or a timer. So 4 notebook pages. At the top of the first notebook page, you're going to write personal. The top of the second one, you're going to write professional. At the top of the third one, you're going to write relationships. And at the top of the fourth one, it's going to be a category of your choice. So, whatever area of life you want to actually hone in on a little bit more right now, it can be your health and wellness or family. It can be specifically your romantic relationship. It can be spirituality. It can be, education. Whatever that fourth category is for you, you can leave that open to what you need. Then take your phone or your timer, set a timer for 10 minutes, and you're going to spend 10 minutes on one page. And here's what you're going to ask yourself. I want you to ask yourself, wouldn't it be amazing if ... I would so love it if my life looked like ... I think in this area of my life, I would be incredibly pumped to ... Any of those just little things that kind of get the juices flowing. And here's the clincher of this exercise. So this is not just brainstorming. This is getting past your conscious mind, because in 10 minutes, what I want you to do is fill up that entire page or more. And you have no time, zero time to assess those goals. Your goal is actually it doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to fit into a category of 10 years from now or 1 year from now or 3 months from now. It doesn't have to be anything that you have even desired before. If you just write down on the page, wouldn't it be cool if I was a snake charmer and a circus artist? Write that down. That came from somewhere, maybe not your conscious mind, but maybe your inner child just came out for a moment. That's what we want. I want to get out the inner child to really help yourself not get locked into this idea that if you write it down on paper, you have to make it happen. Because that is one of the most detrimental things that we do to ourselves, is we feel oh, I really have to assess this goal and see if I really want to do it, and really have to, we get scared to write shit down. No, fill up an entire page and do that for each category. Okay. Trust me. I know it sounds like a lot, but this phase is the most important part because you can get analytical later. But if you never let your heart come out on the page, if you never let your, creative brain take over for just a minute, your goals are going to feel boring to you. They're going to feel lame. They're going to feel like obligations or expectations, right? So do this part first and it will be incredible and illuminating. So now you're going to ask, okay, what do I do with those pages? Once you're done, you're going to go back and look at it, and you're going to circle the ones that feel particularly potent, the ones that align the most with your values that you've already written down and your core desired feelings that you've already written down, and perhaps even your word of the year. You're going to circle the ones that feel potent, and then you're going to give it kind of like not a time limit, but you're going to assess, is this more of a 10-year goal, a 3-year goal, or a 1-year goal? Those are your 3 categories, right? 10-year, 3-year, 1-year. So I want you to go back through all those pages, and I want you to pick somewhere between 5 and 10 10-year goals. And you're going to just kind of like write them down on the page. Now, I'm going to explain these goal types in a second, but for your 10-year goals, these goal types they're not as important yet. So just write down the between 5 and 10 goals, the ones that feel the most potent to you. And again, you can always change them. Don't be afraid to put them down here. And don't be like, notice what comes up for you. Is there fear of like, oh, that's too lofty? I don't know if I could ever do it. If you feel that way, it's a good thing. Put it down. Put it down. Okay. 10-year goals, you've got that. And go in here and type in the goal domain. So is this more of a business goal or more of a personal goal? You can change business to, professional or student, educational, whatever makes the most sense to you. But I just have business and personal. Don't worry about these goal types yet, okay? So you've got your 10-year goals. Please don't do more than 10. That's just too many. You can't keep track of more than 10 goals in 10 years. Okay. These are going to change, and you're going to accomplish some of them much sooner than 10 years. I can guarantee you. Okay. So hold off on that for a second. Then we go into our 3-year goals. 3-year goals. So for our 3-year goals, I want you to go back to that list and think about, okay, got my 10-year goals up here. I know like the direction that I'm heading. I know that, for example, in 10 years, I want to write and publish a book, let's say. And in 10 years, I also want to go back to school and get my PhD. I want to own my own home. Okay. So in 3 years, where do I need to be in 3 years? That sounds doable by 3 years. I've got some time. 3 years is a decent amount of time. So it's not as far away as like 5 or 6 years. So I've got some space in between 3 and 10. What can I do in 3 years that's going to kind of help me move up towards those 10-year goals, but is something that's a little bit farther off than right now? I'm not going to be working on this right now, but I know I want to be there soon. So, for example, if in 10 years I want to write and publish a book, then in 3 years, maybe I start looking at some agents to support my book. Maybe I'm not even on the track to like being a freelancer yet. So maybe I still have an office job. And what I really want to do is quit that job and start my own business and start testing that out. So that's, a 3-year goal. Also, I have here on my 10-year goals, let's say I want to speak 3 languages fluently, and maybe that's related to my PhD or whatever. Joining a language class. Like, I know that I'm not going to have the time this year to think about that, but in 3 years, I want to pretty consistently be in a language class, for example. Then again, we have our personal ones here too. Once you have those 3-year goals, and again, I recommend not having more than 3 or 4 for each category. You do what you need to do, but I found I'm someone who can hold a lot of different ideas at the same time, and even I can't really do more than 3 3-year goals in each category. Now, here's where the goal types comes in. So once you have your 3-year goals in each category, and you can draw some connections. Not all of them have to be connected, but you can draw some connections to your 10-year goals. For example, complete a triathlon. Okay, cool. That's something I want to do in 3 years, maybe, but nothing up here is about exercise or you can clearly tell that's not one of my 3 year goals. It's not one of my 3 year goals to run a triathlon, but I put it here because I hear a lot of people talk about it. It's not connected to my 10-year goals. That's okay. That's fine. There's other areas that it kind of connects to. So or I just kind of, it's just one of my goals and it's just there. So don't worry if not all of them connect. I want to explain the goal types to you. And these are goal types that have kind of evolved over time for me. And I found that this has been the biggest, biggest transformation in the way that I think about goals. About 5 years ago, I started thinking about the idea that not all goals are created equal. Not all of them are not just like different categories, but some of them have like completely different purposes. You want a goal for very different reasons. And I started to kind of categorize them. And then I came across Hillary Rushford, and she had a very kind of different specific process for categorizing them. So this is a bit of a hybrid of what I've kind of created and what she's done. And so I call these goal types. So, first type of goal is your target goal. This is the type of goal that you know you want to prioritize above others. Again, we're getting in the habit, even as multi passionate people who like a lot of different things, we're getting in the habit of prioritizing. It can be a novel concept. It certainly was to me. But a target goal is the goal that you know you want to prioritize, because if you hit this goal, a lot of your other moving parts kind of fall into place. Not all of them, but it's you just know like this is what I want to focus on. A stepping stone is a goal that can help you achieve any target goal, or really any of the other goal types as well. A stepping stone, you can get creative with it, but you just know, okay, this goal isn't necessarily the target goal, but it's something that's going to help me achieve that. A process goal is a habit. Process is a habit that you want to build as part of your routine that sustains you as you reach your other goals. So, a process goal doesn't have to be something that directly relates to your other goals, but it's something that's going to help you maintain the kind of life that you want to be living. A process goal is usually something that you do consistently over time. So it's usually something that will have the words, every day, every month, every quarter kind of attached to it, right? One of mine for last year was, um, I wanted to take 1 week off every quarter. That was a practice, a process, a habit that would help me achieve my goal of working less and coming into a sense of slowness. So your process goal could also be, run every morning, because when I run every morning, that's going to help me maintain the kind of health that I want to have. And maybe it's not directly related to, you know, going back to school or writing a book. But if I'm not taking care of my health, I'm not going to be around or have enough energy to do those things, right? So think of a process as, again, not necessarily related, but as something that helps you sustain your life. Now, a vision goal or vision goal, whatever you want to call it, I call this a vision, is something that you desire, but is not necessarily in your power. And that's a tricky one, right? Because almost everything is like kind of in our power, but not always in our power. You can apply to a bunch of PhD programs that doesn't guarantee that you're going to get in. But the way I really think about a vision is something that you really have some pretty minimal control over, right? So you may not be able to control if you get into a PhD program, but you can definitely control how many you apply to and how good your application is. You have a lot of control there. Something you have a lot less control over is whether or not you become a mom, or whether or not you find that perfect amazing partner, or how healthy your family is, or whatever you might have in your heart that is really a vision you have for your future, but that it's not quite up to you. And the last type of goal is an impact goal. This one is kind of the most interesting and the one that you can get really creative around. So the impact goal is, if you think of the target goal in the middle, the stepping stone as kind of right underneath it, Stepping stone goal helps you reach your target. The impact goal is something that comes after your target goal, usually a goal that will be achieved at least partially due to or will naturally follow one of your other goals, usually your target goal. So, one of mine was, if I publish a book, then naturally following that, I want to go on my book tour. So, going on a 3-month book tour can be an impact goal. So let's see how this works out in practice. Again, for your 10-year and 3-year goals, this is not going to be as as relevant. A lot of your 10-year goals are probably going to be visions or targets, but I did list some here as a stepping stone, right? So let's say I want to go back to school and get my PhD in 10 years, within 10 years. Well, that's not, it is an end in and of itself, but let's say for this person, or, if this were my template, my goal, I want to get a PhD because that's actually going to help me get the job that I want or write the book that I want, for example. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to get a PhD to write a book, but let's just say in my example, that is what I know I need to do. So then going back to school to get your PhD would be a stepping stone to writing your book or getting this other job or doing this other thing. For here, let's say one of my personal 3-year goals is going on a 2-month vacation. That's my target goal. Because as I go on vacation, I'm going to be looking for places that I want to live in the following couple of years. And so the impact of going on vacation, traveling, doing these things is actually going to help me figure out where I want to live and save up money for a house, or maybe that's an impact of starting my own business. Maybe I'm able to make more money by starting my own business than I was in my office job potentially. So the impact of doing that is going to be saving up money for a down payment for a house. You can see as I explain this, right, that this is super personal and super creative. There are no right answers here. What's an impact goal for you might be completely different for someone else. What's a stepping stone for you might not logically, naturally, be the stepping stone, but that that's something you have to do before you hit this mark or whatever it might be. Let's look at that in the context of 1-year goals. So that's your next step here. Once you kind of get the process, your next step is going through your 1-year goals. So I want you to do another brainstorm here. Maybe look back at those 4 notebook pages that you've already filled out and go back and look at those. See if there's any on there that are 1-year goals for you that you really want to hit this year. And if you can write some of them down, but then keep going with that brainstorm. Think about what is achievable for you in the next year in relation to what's going to help you reach where you want to be in 3 years and where you want to be in 10 years. So if this were mine, this is just an example, but let's say in 1 year, I want to create and launch an online course. That's my target goal. And I'm doing that because within 3 years, I want to start my own business. And if I want to start my own business, then I've really got to test out, if this works. So creating and launching an online product, that's what's going to help me test out whether or not that online business is going to work. And before I do that, before I launch an online course, I need an audience to launch it to. So my stepping stone of that is getting 100 people on my email list for my side hustle. Or what is my side hustle right now that in 3 years I want to be my actual business. An impact of that is, once I, do this and I get some people on my list and I'm testing out this course, then I want to attend a major conference in my field. That's an impact of doing that because, well, maybe that's an impact of doing that. Or maybe for you, that's also a stepping stone, something you want to do before. But, in this case, let's say it's an impact goal because I need something to kind of come to that conference with, and then I get to network with people in my field, and that's going to kind of help me move forward. A vision that I have for this, year is get promoted to manager, because for me, that's not something, maybe in my field that I can control, but that's a vision that I have because that'll help me, pay for a down payment on my house or whatever else. And the process goal here is published on my blog each week. Again, as a natural way of kind of relating to this stepping stone, sustaining me, getting me in the practice of, writing. Again, it's one of my 3-year goals here to get an agent for my book, one of my 10-year goals to write a book. So that's, one of my process goals. Same for personal. I have the same thing here. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to let you see what they are. My vision, connecting deeply with my partner, my family, getting clear on where I want to move. That's an impact of hitting a monthly budget. That's helping me save for a home, a stepping stone to all of that, taking a week off. Because if I take a week off, then I have some time to really figure out where I want to live or, whatever that might be. So that is how the goal setting process works. And again, what I want you to focus on here is not getting it right, like, oh, am I doing this right? Is it this type of goal or that type of goal? Get creative with it. The important part is that you see how some of the pieces fit together. What I want to note here is that I'm also not the kind of person who's such a stickler about making your goals smart goals. I do like that kind of way of thinking about goals. I do think that goals need to be, especially more so than here, I use these as an example. So when you're making your own, they should be more measurable, more specific, a lot more kind of, detailed. Maybe it's not just write and publish a book, but I want to write and publish a book on X topic with X major publisher. So I want to speak these 3 languages fluently. So yours should be more specific, more measurable, should definitely feel like they're attainable. And you should have a sense of that. But I will say I'm not such a stickler on that because some of your goals might be a little bit less about the outcome and a little bit more about how you feel in the process. One of my 10-year goals, I think, on my list was for a little while was live from a place of presence and joy. How the heck are you going to measure that? And also, not everyone is motivated by having a sense of measurement. For a long time, I tried to make, numbers on my goals and like in terms of how much money I wanted to make each month or each year. Money doesn't really motivate me. It doesn't motivate me. Seeing that number didn't really motivate me, didn't discourage me either, but I found that it was actually more effective at the stage that I was in my business. Instead of saying, I want to make X in revenue, it was actually, I want to create X amount of, whatever the things that I'm creating, because that comes more from a place of experimentation and fun and playfulness rather than I want to hit X revenue. But you got to know what motivates you. And so don't try to make your goals so specific that they start to feel a little bit obligatory or just a little bit not as enticing. Use language around your goals that make them really enticing to you. Make them specific in a way that they really motivate you. Also, what I want to show you here and what I love about Notion is that there are different ways of seeing all of these. So you can see them by type and you can see them by status in terms of whether you completed these or not. You can do the same here for 3-year goals. You can see them by year. You can see them, by what projects they're related to if you want, and you can go in and change all of that. What I want you to know about each of these and what I want you to do for each of these goals is give it a number. So this is kind of a way that you can prioritize. You can use the number as a way to prioritize. This is my first goal, number 1 priority. Change those numbers. Again, you can change the goal type here. You can change the goal domain here. You can give it a status, whether it's complete or not, and then link it to a goal area. So these areas that I have here that you'll see on the homepage on the side, change them to whatever you need. These do not have to stay the same. These are the areas of, my life or just kind of some general ones that I think are helpful to have. These areas you're going to link all of your goals, like you'll give it a life area, and all of your projects are going to be given a life area, just as a way to help you see what they're related to. And when you go into these life areas, you can actually see like, oh, I have a lot here under home. I have a lot of 1-year goals that are related to home and a project that's related to, my home life. So go in and do that for 10 years, also for 3 years. Each of these, again, are going to have a year, a goal number. If you want, you can enter in your why. Why do you want this goal? projects that are associated with it, the status of it, your goal status. So the status here is whether or not you're in the planning phase, execution phase, whether you're getting feedback, whether you achieved it or didn't achieve it. You can use those as you need. And again, goal type and goal domain. Same for 1 year. You can see these in different ways. All the overview here. Okay, so now we're going to look at our quarterly open projects. I like to work in quarters. You don't have to work in quarters, but I find that it's a really helpful way of breaking up the year. So you'll see your quarterly open projects here on your homepage. You can see what they are for quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3. This rolls up here because you can give each of your projects a quarter and related to which months, but I'm going to actually take us to the view here of our projects. So these are what you're going to fill out. So what I want you to do is make a list of all of your open projects, and they should absolutely be related to your goals. So if your goal is to, your 1 year goal is to have an online course, one of your projects is to create an online course, and you can do that all through Notion, and I'll show you what that template looks like. Another one of your 1 year goals was to start an email list, so that's here. One of your 3 year goals was to save up money for a down payment for a house, so one of your projects for this year is to create a monthly budget. I'm just going to take us through one of these projects as an example. These projects can be personal and professional. You can have as many as you need, but again, try to once you write down all of your open projects, and the way that I look at projects is they should be more than an event or a meeting that you're going to. So when you actually list out all your open projects on a piece of paper or on here, it shouldn't be, let's say you teach a yoga class every week, but you don't actually have to spend a ton of time preparing for it. You kind of know what you're doing. You show up to class and you teach. That's not an open project. That's like a weekly standing meeting. Hi. Samson agrees. An open project is something that you're spending more than an hour a week on and that you are working towards through completion. It needs to be something that you can finish and something that you're working on consistently. So list out all of your open projects. And if you're a freelancer or a business owner, you're going to have a lot of these. And you're also going to have a lot that are maybe challenging to maybe you didn't even realize that you had so many open projects. So if you create content every week and that takes, at least an hour out of your day, content creation is a project, even though it's ongoing, even though you have to do it all the time, every single week. That's a project here. Your clients are projects. And again, you don't have to list them all individually. You can have just a, bucket that says clients, but you're going to want to put that on here. If you like I said, publish a weekly blog post, that's on here. If you're spending, more than an hour a week learning a language, that's on here. So really, really take the time to write all of this out. Don't skip anything here unless it's, like I said, just something that you show up to. List them all out and you will probably be amazed how many open projects you have, and try to avoid lumping them all into one category unless you don't have many things under that category. For example, sometimes there's a lot I have to do on the business back end of things, right? Take care of invoices and all of that stuff. That's probably the only one that I actually lump into the category of business backend, and I call it a project, even though it's technically not, because it's kind of just a little bit of a mismatch that changes every week in terms of what I have to do. And it's just easier for me to call that a project and to keep track of it that way. For the most part, you're not going to want to do that. You're going to want to actually list out, to be honest with yourself about where your time is really going. Okay, that said, I'm going to use one of these as an example. So once you go in and you kind of create your open projects here, you're going to want to give it a life area. So creating an online course is under, the area of course creation. If that's not a whole area in your life, then maybe it's just under business backend, travel, home, education, whatever. Give it a year, give it the quarters of the year that you're going to be working on it, relate it to these months, and give it a status. Let yourself estimate here how many hours a week this might take. If it's something that does have a launch date, you're going to want to put it here, link it to your 1-year goals and your 3-year goals, your milestones, which I'll get to in a minute. And then any resources that you link here that are related to this project are going to show up here. I'll show you the resource hub or the knowledge hub in a minute too. But this is your template to really plan out any projects that you have. This is not just related to a online course, but you're going to want to put details here of everything. I have a module breakdown here so that you can list out all the lessons. If you are a course creator, maybe you teach in general, or another project that can utilize this template. So it's all here. Your milestones roll up here as well, your resources for the creation process. And I'll tell you a little bit about the swipe file and content and other stuff in a bit. So that's all here. And when you create a new project in here, you're going to have things here that says online course. That's the template that you just saw. It's going to pull it all up and you can just plug and play, or a project overview, which is a little bit less extensive. So let's say I just clicked project overview here, it's already going to have a template of you put in why this project, your milestones show up here. You just have to make sure that you filter it for the project. So you want to add a filter here that says where related to projects contains, and then the project that you have. Whatever project I called this is going to show up here. And that'll make sure that your milestones only show the milestones that are related to this project. And there it is. Now, what do we want to do? Let's look at our milestones. So we talked a little bit about milestones already, but let's just go in here and put them in. So I'm just going to tell you how I use Notion. You do not have to do it this way. When I use Notion, I don't put every single to-do that I ever have to do in Notion, because it is unrealistic for me to feel like I do look at Notion every single day, but it's unrealistic that I'm going to drag and drop and hit done and figure out what all of my to-dos are, put them in Notion and check them off every single day. I don't work like that. I put all of my to-dos on a piece of paper or in my actual kind of to-do weekly notebook. My weekly stuff, I don't do in Notion. I have my templates for it here, and it kind of helps me remember what my priorities are each week. But I do my weekly stuff on paper. That's just how I work. Notion is everything else. My actual to-dos are on paper, because if I don't write it out on paper, it's not getting done. It's not getting done. So milestones are not to-dos. Milestones are a little bit bigger than that. It's somewhere between a single action and a whole project, right? Which is a lot. So I'll just use the online course one as an example. If I'm creating an online course, I've got about 5 or 6 different milestones that I need to hit. So I need to first outline the course. I need to gather resources that I know I'm going to put inside the course. I need to set up the sales page for the course. I need to create the actual content, whether that's videos or workbooks for the course. I need to launch and deliver it, and then I need to market it. So those are my milestones. Under each of these, there's a million to-dos. In order to market a course, you have to, there's a lot of stuff to do. So what I want you to think of milestones as, again, is what are the, 5 milestones, the 5 things that you need to hit to make this project a success. Maybe it's not 5, maybe it's less than that. For example, if my project is starting an email list and my 1-year goal is getting 5,000 people on my email list or whatever, well, there's some milestones I have to do there, right? I have to choose a platform, and under choose platform, I have to, research those platforms, figure out what, step by step by step. I need to create an email funnel. When someone signs up for my email list, I need to write a couple of emails that go in there that tell people who I am, what I do, what they should expect, right? So think of milestones as kind of bigger than to-dos, but the areas that you can check off as you are going through a project. Those are your milestones. Now, what you would do next in this template is look at the monthly review. So this is fun. I like this part. So as you're going through, again, this is the in-between area of how we get to our 10-year goals from our daily tasks. Monthly reviews are really, really helpful. Okay, so I'm just going to use January as an example here. I have each of these months in here already for you. They're already linked to the habit tracker, which I'll go to in a second. All the milestones that are linked to that month are going to show up here. As you check off the milestones that you completed, it's going to roll up here. You're going to see all the content you created, the books that you've been reading, how many of those books you finished, your moods, and then it's going to track everything. So everything that you're tracking in your habit tracker and the projects that you're working on as well. So let's say I tracked how many times I took a bath that month, and you can easily see based on this bar what percentage of the days out of the month you took a bath or took your vitamins or didn't watch TV. So that's all here. At the end of each month, I really, really want you to do this and see how amazing it is. Give yourself a word of the month. What was the theme for the month? What were your biggest wins, biggest successes? Can be, life-changing or just tiny, whatever comes up for you. What is your most improved life area? What did you learn this month? And what's not working? How can you shift it? That is a prompt from Danielle Laporte that was also just one of the most helpful things I could think of. What's not working and what's going to shift it? This template doesn't work unless you do. So you have this, all of this is at your disposal, but the biggest theme here is give yourself the time to reflect. Give yourself the time to reflect on what is really important to you, what matters to you. This template is not going to actually change your life unless you give yourself the time and the space to review, to think about what worked, what didn't work, what projects matter to you, which ones are lagging and that you're just never going to do, but haven't admitted to yourself that you're just never going to do it. So that is what this template is amazing for. I want to also go to our quarterly review. So again, all your projects are going to roll up here. You have a view based on what quarter it is. All of your 1-year goals are going to show up here automatically as well once you have those in. And what I like to do for these is, it's a little bit hard to see here when you don't have milestones in here, but your milestones are going to show up here based on what month they're related to. So let's say in a milestone, I said, I'm going to complete this milestone by January, but I don't have it checked off yet. It's not going to show up here until I check it off. So as I go through the months, I can see by month how many milestones I actually hit in each month. If I, give the milestone the tag of February and I check it off, it's going to show up here. Just like it did for, March, let's say, for this one. So it's a great way to track your progress. This is another area that I want you to sit down and do right now, like right now as you're going through this. This was one of the most helpful practices from Essentialism, The Art of Doing Less But Better by Greg McGowan. He suggests that we create criteria before committing to another project, task, meeting, whatever. As you become more of a professional in your field, people are going to ask you for more things. People are going to want more from you. And you are still just a single person with as much time as everyone else. You only have 24 hours in a day. You have to decide what's important to you and how you want to use it. So you have your minimum criteria, which means it has to fit all of these criteria. And then 2 out of 3 of these need to be checked in order for you to take a project on. So let's say someone asks me to And, these are, you saw, for example, my 1 year, 3 year, 10 year goals. Let's just say those are my goals. And someone asks me to create or to like teach a class on yoga uh, for in like 3 months. And it's going to be, 1 hour a week for 6 weeks. Here are the questions I ask. Well, first I evaluate it based on, does it fit my values? Does it fit my core desired feelings? And does it fit, in line with any of my 3 year, 10 year, 1 year goals? If the business that I'm planning on creating, for example, in 3 years doesn't have anything to do with yoga, then no, right? So I ask myself these questions. Do I realistically have time for this right now? Does it bring in money or clients for me? Can't really do much unless that happens. Would I absolutely love doing this? Then, does it amplify my 1 or 3 year goals? Do I align with the people working on this? Does it allow me to show up fully or develop parts of myself that I really want to grow within? This is my criteria. But again, you do not have to make it this. And, for example, this one, does it bring in money or clients? That's not always, one of my checklist criteria. Sometimes I am in a good place. I feel like I have enough that a project I take on doesn't have to bring in money. I can actually volunteer my time and feel, really good about doing that. So this might change over time for you, but develop this, really sit yourself down and think about, what are the questions I need to ask myself before I take on a project? What criteria needs to be hit in order for me to take on a new project? Life changing, telling you, life changing, but only if you use it. Only if you sit yourself down and really think about these things. Okay. Next thing I want to show you is the lookout shoulder. Whew, okay. Lookout shoulder is my favorite thing on the planet because I am someone who can think about a million projects a minute. I have so many things that I want to do in life, so many things, but very often they are things that I can't take on at the moment. They don't fit in my 3 year, 1 year plan, or I just don't have the time for it. And I know that if I took it on, I would be so much more stressed. So this is where you put it. You don't leave it in the back of your notebook. You don't leave it just up sitting in your brain. I don't know how people do that. My brain gets so full so fast based on how many things I'm working on. Do not leave it just in your head floating around. Get it out somewhere. And this is the place where I put all of them. So this is the same database as my projects, but it's filtered based on this filter where when I choose the status of my project, I'm choosing lookout shoulder. I'm not going to be planning or working on it this quarter. It's not an ongoing thing either. It's in the lookout shoulder. This is one of my favorite features of this template. And lastly, over here, well, not lastly, I'm going to show you the weekly priorities, but just in case you are someone who, again, just gets a ton of million ideas a day and you don't know where to put it, that's why I love Notion. I love Notion so much because there's just a place to put everything. There's just an organized place to put everything. It's so great. So this is a place where I write down any new project, ideas, notes, things like just things that I don't have the time to really sort yet. And I just put them in right here, random idea. And then when I think of it, I go back to this space and I just drag that idea right into, let's say it's just a note. It's a conversation that I had with a colleague and it's just a note for myself. I want to put it in my notes and resources list. Let's say it's a new project that I thought about that I don't have time for. I drag it into my lookout shoulder. Let's say it's something I forgot that I had to do that's just kind of floating in the ether. It's just my ticky tacky stuff. I have to, clear out my email drafts or whatever. Drag it down here to the ticky tacky thing. Maybe it's related to a project, so I can actually drag it directly into, it's an idea for the monthly budget. I'm going to drag it directly into there. Easy way to sort all of your thoughts, everything. Okay. Now let's go to the juicy stuff. This is kind of the final thing related to goal setting, and then I'll just show you some of the extra fun pages in here. So weekly priorities. The weekly priorities is where stuff happens. And again, I don't do my weekly stuff in Notion. These are here for you so that you can use it as a template to either do in Notion. If you're a totally digital person, you can actually do that. or to do it on a piece of paper in your daily planner. This saves me more hours in a week than literally anything else that I've ever done. So if there is one thing, if you don't do anything else in this template or anything else for goal setting for yourself, please do this. Please do this. It is revolutionary. Okay. So, sorry, that's not the right one. Let's go to weekly plan. So every single week, what I do is on a piece of paper, I list out all of my open projects for that week. So all the open projects that I know I will be working on that week, I write them out. Now, this part came from Hillary Rushford, amazing goal setting entrepreneur time management person. She's awesome. I have a link to her down at the bottom of the homepage. Journal out any thoughts, feelings, challenges, wins, anything else related to your open projects. This is the only time that I give myself. I do this every Sunday or Monday. At the beginning of the week, I give myself 1 hour to do this. Most of the time, it's less than an hour. And I just write down under my open project, let's say I'll just stick with the course creation thing. I'm creating a course. I write that down, and then I write down anything that feels stuck about it, anything that feels, like I need to celebrate, or anything that feels like a challenge. This week, oh, I really feel behind on this, or I'm really not sure about this, or this client emailed me about that and I don't know what to say, whatever it might be. And then this, again, comes directly from Hillary. Remember that if you're stuck, you can delegate it, you can eliminate it altogether, you can research or get advice, you can build a better system around it, or you can cut back. Done is better than perfect. This is life-changing. This is the only time that I consciously give myself, because these thoughts are happening anyways, right? But this is the only time that you actually get to sit down with yourself and go, oh, this is where I'm getting stuck. And this is what I'm supposed to be doing this week, right? Because otherwise we start our week and we're just like, I don't know. I mean, I have to do like 10 things. It's like, yeah. But how are you organizing those things? How are you prioritizing them? Then here's the clincher. On one side of the page, I do that. On the other side of the page, I actually do go in and prioritize, because each week my priorities change. Maybe I'm in the middle of a huge project and I have to prioritize something that, maybe came out of the woodwork, or, maybe someone sent me an email and I was like, oh crap, I totally forgot about that. And my priorities shift. So every week, my priorities are going to change, and that's okay. So I actively choose them instead of letting someone else kind of swoop in and choose my priorities for me. It's not about what's the most urgent. It's about what's the most important to you. So what are your top 2 open projects that require your prioritization this week? And they should align with your goals, your vision, and your values. What are your smaller priorities, your other ones that, maybe don't need as much of your attention? And then what do you already know? What can you already anticipate is not the heck going to happen this week? It's going to happen next week. Again, this is inspired by Hillary Rushford's Elegant Excellence Journal, which I do use. I don't even think it's on the market right now, so I'm not an affiliate, and I don't, whatever. You don't have to listen to me about this, but I just love it. It's awesome. It's just awesome. But you can do this in Notion also, and it's a great, great strategy for your week. I also give you here on this sidebar a view for your weekly priorities. So let's say you did do that on paper. This view I probably have up on my screen more than any other, because it's, again, that thing that I can go back to say, oh yeah, these are my goals. These are my target goals in business and in life. And I use this more than any other screen or dashboard here, because it rolls up all my priorities and everything I need to see for the week in one. So even if I do all of my actual, weekly planning on paper, this view I keep up and I change based on what's important to me. So I have my 1-year goals here at the top to remind me. My priorities this week are going to change. So I can see all of my, Q1, Q2, and whatever goals up here right away. Also, these numbers here are showing me how much time in the week I said this was going to take me. But let's say I, My priority this week for the course is actually number one. That needs to be my first priority. So I'm going to list that. But now I have three first priorities, right? So the blog post, I don't know, like maybe that's a little bit less of a priority this week. Second priority, and learn Tagalog. Well, I really don't have time for that this week. So that's my third. I don't have more than three because if you have more than three priorities, you're not prioritizing. Okay. Even three is a lot, right? That's a bit much. So, let's say I accidentally have two second priorities. So I'm just going to list that one as low. Great. Okay. So now when I go into my priorities for this week, it's all here. And this is how I know what to work on based on what my 1 year goals are and what my prioritized projects are. Then I have my milestones for this week. So I'm also prioritizing my milestones. So some of them are going to be ongoing, and it's always going to list your ongoing projects here. But again, I get to list my priorities for these. So it's going to show up here as my first, my second. Maybe I have some third priority milestones here as well. If you want to see all your milestones, you can see them all right here, and you can just kind of choose them however they make sense to you. Then I have my sample weekly schedule. Again, this is going to look very different for you than it might be for me. This is just a sample of what things might look like for you at some point. But you're going to put any weekly meetings on here, things that you do every single week. You're going to put your usual, clients or your work schedule or whatever, so that you can actually see how much time you have to give things, so that when you go up to your project and you're like, oh, this is going to take 6 hours every week, but you don't even have 6 hours in your schedule, that's not going to work, right? So it's just all laid out right there for you. And then just some, ticky tacky stuff and a link to the habit tracker if you want to use the habit tracker. I'll talk about those in a moment. So that is everything related to your goals, your milestones, your priorities, and it's amazing. Okay. From there, I'm just going to give you a couple of little extras, like ways that you can use this template that's really fun and exciting. Some pages that I love here. So again, if you're tracking your habits, you can change any of these to be whatever you want. Maybe you don't meditate every day, but you I don't know, run every day. Change this to run. Use them however you need them. I like to track my hours of TV because, hey, like I don't want to be watching as much TV. And your mood, you can add moods here as well. I only, listed whatever I have, but maybe just there's certain moods that aren't listed here that you get into. So feel free to add any of these. And you can change this by view of the month or all of that year. So again, for February, it's already all here for you at the start of the month. Let's go back. Let's look at our ticky-tacky list. Ticky-tacky is everything that's like a to-do that I know I'm not going to get done in a week and I kind of don't want to do, but I need a place to put it. Like some people have that list on their fridge. It's like, oh, crap, I gotta buy groceries. I gotta open that mail. I gotta, sell that thing. I gotta, buy puppy treats. I gotta clear my email draft. I need to plan my vacation. Whatever it is that you don't want to do, that's not going to live somewhere else. You just need a place to put it here. You can give yourself deadlines for it. You don't have to. But this is just a really neat place to keep all of that extra stuff. I have a little thing called routines here. I kind of love this, again, just as a little bit of a reminder of like, what do I need to do as a ritual to be a human every day? What are some of my affirmations? They're going to roll up here also. What's my ideal daily routine? That's important because you saw before how we had, your weekly schedule, but what's your ideal day actually look like? You might, if you're not fully a freelancer yet, you might have some blocks in here that you don't have control over, but you have some blocks of time that you do. So figure out what you want your ideal day to really, really look like and use this as a way to go back to and think, okay, have I been doing that? Have I been actually, taking a break from 3 to 4 like I desperately need to in order to be a happy person? Maybe I've been skipping that and actually not eating, so use this as a way to get smart about that. And then Just some little things here of reminders like, okay, this is how I take care of myself. This is what I need in order to be a human. Um, Great. Let's go down into the things I want to do this season. This is one of my favorites. So maybe you live in a place that doesn't have seasons, that's okay. But in the effort of balancing life with work, that I what I why I added this to this template is because I wanted to remind myself that living my life is just as important as my work, right? So I'm going to use fall as an example because I love fall. You know, eat s'mores, go camping. I break these up by seasons. You don't have to. You can just have one long list. You know, if you live in a wacky place that doesn't have seasons, I'm clearly biased. I live in upstate New York, and seasons are a big part of, why I live here and why I love the changing of the seasons. But keep track of the activities that you want to do, like around the holidays. Maybe you don't celebrate Christmas, but if you do, what are some of the things that you do? Do you decorate your house differently? And then you can check some of these off and say if you did them. And, it's a really good way of kind of reminding yourself of what you enjoy. Yeah. So now let's look at some of these other fun pages. So where should we start? Let's start with personal. So we did the seasonal activities. This template was actually, I got permission to add this by this really amazing VA named Sonia. She's incredible. If you have a pet, this is a great way to keep track of all of your pet's informations, any reminders for, their vaccines or meds or things, tips and tricks that I've added here because I just got a puppy and he's so cute but so wild. If you need an enrichment schedule for them, you can figure out how to use this, yourself. I'm not going to go too deep into this one, but it's a really fun template to keep track of that. I keep all of the recipes that I like to try on here. They are so amazing and good. I, give them different stars based on how much I liked them. You can tag them: dinner, lunch, breakfast, sides, what type of diet they're good for, primary ingredients. And then I even, link some of the instructions from the web page here. So keep all your recipes in one place. Let's go to the business side of things. So I'll start with the content hub because if you are a business owner, content is really a huge thing. This is where I keep track of all of my content ideas. And if I'm working with a VA, this is a page that I will send the VA, or I actually have a VA hub that I created in Notion too. Maybe at some point I'll put that out there, but I didn't feel like it was that helpful for this template because not everyone has one. But this is how I keep track of content. So, in my domain, I have different themes here that I like to talk about: holistic health, mental health, trauma, all these things. So, whatever theme of content you have, whatever type you want it to be, is it a live video? Is it a webinar? Is it a newsletter? Whatever. So, just keep track of all your content here and then click when you've published it. And let's say I open up this example content here. You're going to give it a date that you scheduled it. If you want to assign it to your VA, you can add them in here. Give it a month because that's going to roll up in your monthly and it's going to show you, hey, you created this, you published this many pieces of content, and what projects you're working on are going to roll up here too, or what project this content is related to, which we saw when we went to the projects page. Really helpful to have all in there. Swipe files are fun things. When you see an Instagram post that you liked, a web page that you liked, if you're designing a website and you want inspiration for it, there's a Google tool called Screen Capture. I use that to take essentially an image of the entire web page and I put it in here. This is one that I really liked, Digital Made Simple. I actually saw her on Marie Poulin, who's an amazing Notion person, her webinars that she does, or her kind of live sessions, and I just really liked it. So I put her page here. She's amazing. I liked the design of it. And Swipe files are just bits of information or inspiration that you have for whatever it is that you're creating. So, what I like about it is both the content and the design. Sometimes I only like the content or only the design. I add some comments here. I might tag it if I want to, but usually I just add the URL. I add what kind of thing it is, and then that's that. And so I have a master list of all the things that I liked, or if you just want to look at the Instagram posts that you liked, that you were inspired by, the website design that you were inspired by, that's all going to filter and show up here. Think of how swipe files can look for your life though. Maybe you're not a content creator, but maybe I don't know, are a bookmaker, so you want a swipe file inspiration of all the different book covers or types of graphic design, or maybe you collect things and so you just want swipe file of all the different types of things that inspire you. However you want to look at this, swipe files are basically people, creators, things that you're inspired by, that when it comes time for you to create something like that, you can take elements of that, because I'm not saying to steal or copy or anything like that, but we're always being inspired by each other. So you might as well have a place to put all of those bits of inspiration. Then money love date. This came directly from Kate Northrup. At least she's the one who coined this term. And I've, kind of tweaked it or changed it over the years. But if you are looking to get better with money, I highly recommend having a money love date with yourself. It's an hour once a month where you check in with your finances and keep an eye out on what's happening. So here's my process. You pay balances, so you pay off your credit cards or make payments towards them. You check your bank account numbers, make sure that you have everything that's needed to stay on track. Make sure that you check for any outstanding invoices, any debts that people owe to you. You check in your accounting software if you have a business for any lost invoices, null expenses. You view your profit and loss report on your accounting software if you have that. I use FreshBooks. I like it. Again, I'm not an affiliate for any of these things, but I like FreshBooks because they are cheaper and, in my opinion, better than QuickBooks. You update, check and revise some of your transactions. I like using Mint, which is from Intuit. Mint helps me kind of keep track of my budgets. Check in if you have any investments to see how those are going, if you have cryptocurrency, and check in on your joint accounts if you have a partner or family or whatever else. And then make an affirmation for yourself, whatever makes you feel good about money, reminding yourself that there's more where that came from. So money love dates have been revolutionary for me as someone who grew up pretty poor with a single mom, did not know ever how to manage my money, and it's been incredibly helpful. So I added that in there for you. Last but not least, I want to take you to the Knowledge Hub. This is the bomb.com. So I'm a researcher. I love researching all kinds of things. And I never had a place to put all the websites, the tabs, the bookmarks, the articles, the videos, all the things that I desperately wanted to put in one place are now in one place. This is not my master list. I have way more than this, but just to give you some examples, if you have a book that you really liked that you want to put in here and you have book notes, you can, add a summary of the book. You can add notes that you had, new ideas that you've had about the book go in here. If you just have a random project idea, it doesn't even have to be an article that you took, but you had an idea that you want to tag and you want to just write down, that's in here too. If there's an organization that you like and you want to add them in here and they're interesting to you and you have notes around them, if there's a YouTube video, you can add a link to it and take notes on it. And of course, as I mentioned, the easiest one, blog and web articles that you can actually copy and paste and put in here and highlight and bold and do whatever you need to it. So what I do is when I put an article in here, there's also a Google extension called Notion Clipper, Notion Saver that you can use, and it's super easy. It just downloads it right into here for you. I give it a tag. So you can make your own tags, but these are the ones that I've already built in here for you. This one is by an interview with Simon Sinek. So I tagged it organizational development and marketing based on what he's talking about. I give it a type. It's a web article. You can give it an area of your life if you want, if it's related to projects, to lessons of the course that you're developing, to your milestones. You can put that in here and give it a source, an author. Check it off if you've already read it, and check this off if you fully kind of summarized it, which to me means if you've gone back and you've really went through and you've like taken all the major ideas out of it, or created some new ideas from it. So this is the Knowledge Hub, and what we get to do with the Knowledge Hub is, I love this area. I call this my resource library. Shows me what I'm currently reading, what you like have finished reading. When I've finished reading something, in this comment section, I put book 2021, because then it filters in here to show you all the books that you've finished. And I give it a month once I finished it, so that it rolls up into the month and shows me, I finished this, let's say in January. You go here, you click January, and then it'll show you in your monthly roll up that you have finished this book. And these are the books that I'm currently reading, which means it has book 2021, but it is not done yet. I'm still, reading it, let's say. That shows up there. Any musings that I've had this month. So again, this is also filtered to just be your musings, your project notes and ideas, and that'll show up here for this month as well. Last but not least, the tag library. You get to decide what your tags are. If you are a researcher like me and you want to organize all your things, here's how you can think about it. I have filing cabinets and I have tags, master tags. So let's say that Simon Sinek article that I have, I tagged it organizational development. Well, the filing cabinet that I put organizational development under is business. So think of these as like pull-out drawers. I just added 2 for you, but you, again, can organize these however you want. If there's a whole domain of your life that is spirituality, maybe spirituality is your kind of filing cabinet tag. And under spirituality, you have, meditation methods, and then you have spiritual books, and then you have, I don't know, some other aspect of spirituality, Zen Buddhism, and you have whatever else might be under there. So for example, for business, I have marketing, personal or organizational development, and productivity. Those are all tags that are under my business filing cabinet. And these numbers here show you how many resources are in that major filing cabinet, like just the tag business itself, and then how many resources are in the tags underneath that. And so this is the master tag database. So, there's 1 resource in marketing right now, there's 2 in productivity right now, and those numbers are going to go up as you, continue to add. You can also see how many tags you have without a filing cabinet. For example, I don't have a filing cabinet yet for learning and education. If I put something in learning and education, it's not going in one of these business or personal health filing cabinets. But as you continue to add more stuff, you continue to add more tags, then you might figure out, oh, learning and education is going to go under, X filing cabinet for me. So this is all, again, going to be very personal to you. So that, my friend, is our life dashboard. I hope that this is so helpful for you. Play around, get familiar with this, make it work for you. But most importantly, take the time to get to know yourself. What do you desire? What do you value? What are your 10-year goals, your 3-year goals, your 1-year goals? None of these have to be perfect, and you're not going to, rigidly complete all of these. That is not the point. The point is to feel less scattered, to have more self-awareness, to understand what your priorities are, and to have ways through Notion to, see that up front and center, what all of your projects are, how you're doing, because all of this gives you more information that can help you just become the person that you want to be. I hope that this was helpful, and please let me know if you have any questions about the, process itself. I am not a Notion expert, so please don't come to me with your Notion questions. I set this up for you the best that I can, but if you need to troubleshoot, I highly recommend Marie Poulin. You can go down the YouTube rabbit hole of all the people that know Notion. That is not me. But please come to me and tell me what you think about this template and how you are loving it.